Happy Mother's Day whenever you're celebrating it. Well, and it's not always happy, right? Especially if the father of your child or children forgets that there is a celebration and you don't get any gift, you don't even get any hug and proper words of appreciation, and you feel forgotten, invisible, resentful, and like unappreciated. And this is not fair, right? No joke, no judgment. Absolutely, you have the right to feel that way. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could actually feel happy, worthy, like you're the best mom for your kids and you feel great about that, no matter if there's some external validation and words of appreciation from the father of your children or anybody else? What if that was possible? Because there are these two extremes, right? There's the mom who's shrinking, who feels invisible and not appreciated if there is nothing coming out. And then there on the other extreme, where we do not want to go either, is the mom who will say, okay, screw the guys, they're idiots anyways, I don't need any man, I can do it by myself, and just like I will power through as an ice queen, no emotions, nobody's going to steal my calm, I know I'm awesome and let's just go. But it's this cold logical energy that's on the other side of the extreme. So where is the healthy middle? Where is it? How can we do that? Because yes, it is possible. And why should you want to know? Because no, I'm not here to save your marriage. That's a much bigger discussion for probably some couples counselor or therapist. I'm not a couples counselor. I'm also not a parenting coach, but what I do really well, I can see those generational patterns. And I don't need to tell you because you were a kid once upon a time. You can imagine your kids are not idiots either. They see things, they hear things, they are observing patterns, they see your relationship right now with their father, and they are learning, they're absorbing. That's why I'm always telling moms, don't worry about your kids not listening to you. The first time you ask, start worrying about them watching you and their father. And so this is why we need to talk, because you don't want your girls to go to either of these extremes when they grow up and be the people-pleasing doormat or the marching ice queen who's like, screw guys, I don't need anybody. You don't want her to go to either of these extremes. And you want your boys to have a healthy role model of what kind of woman or a man, no judgment, but what kind of healthy partner they want to be looking for in their lives. Yes? So, is that something that is relevant for you right now? Well, then let's go and talk about it in the next episode, this Mother's Day special episode of the Zen Supermom podcast. See you inside. Hi Supermom, my name is Alena and I'm a mommy tantrum specialist because I used to be specialist at yelling at my daughter, but also I used to have mommy tantrums in my relationship with her father, with my husband. And so this is what we will talk about today, because I know I'm not alone in like how I used to feel whenever my husband would forget either my birthday, and I could clearly see he just bought something last minute on his way from work because he forgot, or whenever there was Mother's Day that was forgotten, or even for Christmas, either zero presents or like thoughtless, just placeholder present. And I used to take it very personally, and I used to feel very hurt by that, because in my family where I grew up, presents were signs of appreciation and that you're thinking about the other person. And of course, it's not the gift itself, but it's the thought underneath. And that's what was hurting me the most, because I felt like I don't care about getting whatever expensive stuff. Like I don't need stuff, but I felt like whenever I did not get any present where it would indicate that he actually gave it some thought, I felt, well, I was not worth it. And it meant like, well, it means my relationship sucks, because if I don't even get any proper present, if he's not thinking of me, if he's not giving me thoughtful gift, then it means like my marriage is falling apart. And holy moly, this is the red flag, right? So I should be concerned, and we need to talk because I need to have boundaries and yada-da-di-da-di-da. So zero judgment. That's why I'm sharing like a little sneak peek of my story, because I want you to know I'm not here to judge anybody. I am very direct. So we will talk about what's going on and where your power is, so that you can stop being the victim and being like trapped by the underperforming father of your children, where you can take your power back. But we need to talk about this, because I know I'm not alone, and I got that reminder, I think, last week in our group coaching call with the clients inside the Zen Supermom program, because one of the moms, and I know it's coming up because Mother's Day is celebrated in different parts of the world on different Sundays, in different days, right? So in some parts of the world, it was already here. I live in France. It will be only at the end of May. So that's why also like I'm never posting Happy Mother's Day on my on my social profiles, because it's all around the world in different places, in different times. But in the group call last week, there was one of the moms who actually opened her sharing and her coaching question she needed. She opened by saying, well, I have a win to share, because last year, before I started the Zen Supermom program, I felt unworthy, resentful, super mad with my husband because he forgot it's Mother's Day and they have 2 small children. And so she was like, last year, my Sunday was ruined because I was like, nobody appreciated me and I deserve better. And then she continued saying, this year, I was like, screw that. I'm not going to wait for anybody to make me feel like anything, because I love my husband, of course, like it would be great if he could remember, but I'm not going to let his action or inaction impact how I am going to feel, because I'm bloody proud of how I'm cleaning up everything as a mom, how I stopped yelling at my kids, how there's much more peace and calm and just love in our connections with the kids. And I'm so freaking proud of myself that I did it, because it was me, nobody else. And so I deserve to celebrate myself. So she said, I went and I bought myself flowers. I bought myself something new to wear. And I just felt like $1,000,000 because I was like, yes, I deserve this. So I gave it to myself. And if there's anything that will come on top from my husband, great, but I don't need that. I don't need the validation. I don't need the external approval. I don't need anybody else from the outside telling me if I'm a good mom or not, and make one day in a year depend on my self-worth as a mother. That was her key win. And we all felt so proud of her, because this is it. That's exactly what needs to happen, right? So, how did she do that? And how could that be possible for you too? Because if you're listening to this podcast episode, it means there's a part of you who feels like, oh, it sounds great in theory, logically, yes, I want that. But how do you do that? Because you don't want to slide into the pattern of taking it to either side of the extreme, right? And let's talk about the extremes, because this is where I jump in. As I said in the intro, I'm not a couples counselor, I'm not a parenting coach, but I see the patterns. And it did not start today. It did not start with your current partner, husband, wife, whomever you live with and have kids with. It did not start with them. It goes all the way back to when you were a child and you were observing patterns and interactions between your parents, and you saw them individually also, how they feel about their own worth and value. Yes? Because can you remember as a kid? It's not always about what parents try to teach and preach, right? What they're telling you that you should be doing and you should watch out for in other people or in your friends. But then you see them doing something completely different in their relationships, in their friendships and partnership, right? And then you see the disconnect and like, what the heck? So 2 most typical scenarios that usually happen. Start rummaging through your childhood memories, see how much you can come up with, how much you remember. But this is something that I can clearly remember. My mom was actually pending between these 2 extremes. So she was extremely dependent on the opinions of others, because that's how she was raised, the oldest daughter of 3. My grandparents, they gave her the name of my grandfather, just the female version, because grandfather was apparently always disappointed he didn't have a boy. So his eldest was daughter, so he gave her his name. So that's the pressure my mom used to grow up with. She had to make it up for her fault that she was not a boy. So she was raised in an extremely tough, actually quite brutal way. But at the same time, she was always dependent on that approval. And she required that approval from her father. She felt the jealousy of her mother because she was smarter and more independent in a way, thanks to that. And she did not want to be like her mom, who was this softie and unworthy, but that's what she was underneath. That's how she grew up, feeling like she needed the external validation. She needed the signs of like the tracking. Yes, you're doing great. Yes, continue. She needed that validation. And then of course, that projected in her marriage with my dad, which is something that I could feel even as a kid. I could not put my language on it. I did not understand like what the pattern was, but I could feel the energy, right? So then it was not just Mother's Days and things when she was even telling my dad up front and to make sure he doesn't forget. She was giving him the hints in advance so that he can fulfill her wishes. But there was more. It was not really, and think about it, what was going on like with your parents as you were watching. If you had two parents, of course, like if you didn't, and if your mom had other patterns related to the opposite sex, it will be even more tangled, right? But start realizing what the patterns were. How did your mom show up under pressure? Yeah. So when things were not going her way, when she was not giving the approval, when she was not given the appreciation, how did she react? Was she the people pleaser, showing like the bitter victim, saying like, no, I don't want any gift, but then you don't give her any gift and she's right? Or was she the tough cookie, like the isolated ice queen, no emotions, like so much in the head, zero emotions. I don't need anybody. I'm strong enough. I can keep marching. Who needs friends? Who needs family? I'm just going to push through with my strong willpower and smart brain, and I will make it happen. How was your mom? Because chances are you'll be either copying exactly her pattern or you will swing to the opposite extreme, right? Because this is the first point we need to realize. This is not about blaming our parents for anything. They did the best they could with what they knew and what they had. Just like you are doing right now the best you can with what you were given. But we need to start seeing the patterns, because no matter how much you think you're an independently thinking, independently feeling person, and that you might be doing already so much better than your parents, especially if you came from a much more screwed up, traumatized childhood, you are probably doing much better than them. However, we need to be honest about what's going on underneath those events, because it's not those events, Mother's Day, Christmas, your birthday, who cares? Like, it's not about that. How you feel when people are not showing you that they see you, that they understand you, that they appreciate you, that they care about you. They are not trying to read your mind, fulfill your wishes without you even telling them. If you feel resentful that they are not doing it, or if you're shutting down, feeling like, I don't need anybody here, let me do this. And then, but underneath, there is that little girl in you feeling like, I'm just so exhausted because it's so heavy to try to push everything by myself. And this is so not fair, because relationships and raising kids, it shouldn't happen. It should not be one person only. Like, I just wish somebody would see that and somebody would help me without me having to tell them, because it's embarrassing and it feels weak to ask for help and for support. And how come I have to do that? How come people cannot appreciate it? How come I'm doing so much for others and what I'm getting back is like breadcrumbs, and even I have to beg for it? Like, that's not fair. Like, I'm doing so much, so there should be so much coming back to me. Like, it is exhausting. I can't do this anymore. And it's just like, So start checking for your patterns. Start looking for those underlying feelings. How does it feel like to you inside? And you don't have to, not what you would admit to your friends or to your family. But let's be honest with ourselves. Admit it to yourself, because that's the first part. Seeing the pattern and being honest with yourself. How is that really feeling? Without judging it. Yes? Because especially, and I tend to attract lots of hyperachieving, super independent power women. And that's great. Like, good on you. Keep going, woman. You rock. But there comes a point when we need to be honest, at least with ourselves. And this is what took me the longest. Because I was raised indeed believing that emotions are weak, that asking for help is not strong enough, and that I should just, power through. But there was this little girl in me who was feeling resentful, who was not feeling appreciated, and who felt like, what the heck? My husband should just read my mind, just like I am reading his mind. I am anticipating his needs and doing things for him before he even asks, because that's how much I love him. So if he doesn't do that to me back, it means he doesn't love me, and then I'm screwed because he's going to leave me and I will be alone and I will be a single mom, and that means I'm a failure, and yada-da-da-da-da, and the story continues. See the pattern? Yes. So now, how to get out of it, how to rewire that, and how to change that so that your kids don't start watching, observing, and then copying the exact patterns in their relationships 10, 20 years from now. How to do that. So step number 1, realize what's underneath and start acknowledging those feelings, at least to yourself. Yeah? Second, see that yes, these feelings are valid. You don't have to judge yourself for feeling that way. But start getting curious where that's coming from, really. Yeah, it's not the responsibility of your partner to make you feel loved. It's not his or her responsibility to read your mind. And it's not a sign of you being loved or appreciated if you're getting gifts or not. Ta-da! Yeah, correct. Why is that? And why is that actually good news? Because you don't have control. You don't have power over like making people around you feel anything or change how they express love. Because yes, there is not one way to express love. And if I did not make that up, just read about or do the test of 5 love languages. Some people do it through gifts, but some people do it through different ways. Yeah. So there might also be that this is not about giving gifts. Like how much do you know about your partner and how they grew up? How much do you know about how they prefer sharing love? Because maybe it's not gifts, maybe it's not acts of service, which is my love language, by the way. I could not care less about the gift, but for me it's acts of service, because me dedicating my time doing something for my family, that's like the most precious thing, because my most precious thing is time. I don't have enough of that. So for me, it's acts of service. I would very much rather than my husband cleans up the entire apartment than give me whatever gifts. Like, screw that. I can buy them myself. I can't buy the time cleaning. Or showing me the appreciation that he cooks, right? So it's the acts of service for me. But then other people, for my husband, his love language is physical touch. He likes the physical appreciation. There are people who like words of affirmation, so who like to hear it. How much they are loved and how much you appreciate them. So for them, giving them the words of affirmation, that's the best reward. That's how they know you love them. So do you know the love language of your partner? And are you filling their cup? Are you making them feel loved the way they want? Or are you using your love language to push it to them? Yeah. Because I can tell you, no matter of me cooking, cleaning, preparing gifts for my husband, that's not going to do nearly as much as if I show him through physical affection that I love him. Like, that's his love language, right? Because then we cannot blame the partners for not knowing our love language. They're just doing what we are doing. We are all sharing what our love language is, not understanding maybe the other person doesn't have the same one. Yes? So only from that place, you can start realizing, well, I'm not the victim here. I actually have a lot of power. And then whenever you're ready for the final step, that includes the full generational rewiring, so that we stop going between the self-sacrificing, people-pleasing martyr doormat, aka doormat, and or the hyper-achieving, hyper-rational, avoidant ice queen who's just like powering through everything by herself. And we go to that healthy middle, which is going back to the story with which I opened this podcast episode, the story of the mom who rewired all of this and who's genuinely from a healthy place feeling like my sense of self-worth and being loved comes from within. I am the source. I am the channel, without being too woo-woo about the energy and frequency and stuff. But she's in a place where she feels like, I am the source of love. I have enough so that I not only love myself, but I love my kids and I love my husband. And If there is any gift coming on this Mother's Day, great, but I already filled my own cup. Not from a place of Ice Queen who's isolated but quietly suffering behind her walls, but from a place of I am here to give unconditionally. This is what took me the longest time. I give because I want to give without expecting anything back. That's the whole idea of unconditionality, right? I don't put any list of requirements like I make you feel loved if you do or say this, because if you don't, then it's not fair. I'm giving you more than you're giving back to me. And you're like, it's kind of bargaining on a fruit market, right? Like if you this, if you give me that. Like that's not unconditional love in a relationship, right? And we don't want to do that with our partners. We don't want to do that with our kids. And this was the biggest lesson for me as a recovering people pleaser, because I realized, and ask yourself this question first and be really honest. Before you give something to someone the next time, your time, your attention, your appreciation, you do something for them, you give them anything, you give them love, you show them your love. Before you do that, ask yourself if you would still do it if they wouldn't know, if there was no thank you coming afterwards. If you had zero expectations that there is anything coming back to you, would you still do that? Because this is the best catch for the people pleaser. If you're expecting anything back for what you give, it's not unconditional. And even less, it's not unconditional love. The energy of unconditional is, I'm giving you because I have so much to give. I have an overflow myself. Meaning, I feel worthy. I know I'm not perfect, but it's more than enough. And I have so much love. I have so much energy. And it just feels so good to me that I want to include you in my field, in that space that's just pure love, and it's fun and it's joy. And I'm such a strong source of that. There's so much of this around me that I want to include you in it without expecting anything back. So if you want it, great, come in. If you don't want it, you want to step out of it, that's also okay for me, because I'm not going to take it personally, because I know you might not be in the mood for sunny, shiny, happy. Maybe you're going through something, so I'm not going to make that about me. You have the right to say yes or no. But this is who I am, this is my field, and I give because I want to give, period. Then yes, go ahead and give. But if you're giving because you want to get back and then you do not get enough back, then stop. Because I can imagine, and again, go back to your childhood, any aunts, grandmas, mom's friends, do you remember any resentful, bitter women who are like, these ungrateful, I sacrificed my whole life and I got nothing for it, and they're such spoiled brats, and I should have been more strict, they didn't deserve it. And it's like, I wish, and I gave them my best years to this relationship, to this guy, and he was just like, he trashed it, and do you want to turn into that woman? And again, I'm not judging anybody, I'm not judging these women either, but isn't it sad? Again, they did the best they could with what they knew. Most of our parents' generation, they did not have access to proper therapy. Even the therapy that is being done today, or not even talking about neuroscience, none of that was really existing. It was in diapers. People were still smoking in front of the kids. There were no seat belts, and there was no emotional seat belts either for kids. We just saw, I have so many parents who saw like their moms being beaten up, so many parents abusing alcohol, and then broken marriages, single moms with such horrible circumstances, because people used to think that, oh, kids are small, oh, they're resentful, they will bounce back. Kids are so sturdy, you cannot break them. What trauma? Come on, they had food to eat, they had clean bed. Come on, what can they complain about? They had such better childhood than I had. Yeah, right. So I'm not blaming any bitter grandmas. Like, I had my share of bitter aunts and grandmas in my lineage. I have nothing but compassion for them. I can absolutely imagine it was not a fair life. They had to sacrifice and push through so much stuff. But we can do better now. There is much more awareness about how brain works, how nervous system regulation works, how generational patterns are wired, which is then good news because it can be rewired and it can stop with you. So if you would like to take then the next step, this is as far as we will go in this podcast episode, because I don't want to turn it into like a teaching of mommy tantrum trainings, which I'm doing in my separate events. So sign up for any of the mommy tantrum trainings I'm doing live. That's where we can go into specifically how to rewire that. But what I wanted to do in this podcast episode is to show you what's actually going on under the surface, so that you can stop feeling like the powerless person trapped by it, and you start taking your power away. Not because it matters to you and it's actually going to make you feel better, which you absolutely deserve, but also so that you start rewiring and changing that because your kids are watching. And even if you're already separated from their father, even if you are already single, they can hear your self-talk. They can see it on your energy, on your body language. No matter how much you're trying to protect them, they observe. They are not stupid, just like you were not a stupid kid. You understood very well. You felt it, what was going on with your parents once upon a time. Your kids can feel it too. So that's why I'm here. And that's who I am here for. Any brave, courageous women who want to stop being the trapped prisoners of relationships that are less than ideal. Doesn't mean you have to break up with your partner today because they didn't wish you Happy Mother's Day on Sunday. Absolutely not. But let's start looking at what it is that we can start doing about it. Yes? So that you can break that generational cycle and your kids are growing up having a much healthier role model and much better start for whatever relationships they choose a few years from now. Yes? I hope this was helpful. I look forward to hearing from you. Anywhere you're listening or watching this podcast episode, or then email us at hi@zensupermom.com. I always love to hear from you, your feedback, and ideas for further podcast episodes. Take very good care, Supermom, and Happy Mother's Day! Bye! See you in the next episode of the Zen Supermom podcast.